Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about Invisible Boys by Holden Sheppard. This is a really interesting, gritty, and authentic book by an awesome Australian author. So if you're looking to read more queer books or looking to expand your library, stick around because I think this is going to be a really interesting read for a lot of you. So Invisible Boys centers around 3 different characters, which makes it a really engaging read because I think sometimes if you don't like one character and the book centers too much around that one character, it can be a bit of a chore to get through. But with 3 different people to kind of focus on, it's unlikely that you're not going to find one of them compelling. So we have Charlie, who is, I would say, the central character. He's the one around which a lot of the action kind of centers and flows around. I mean, that's a central character. So we have Charlie, who is our central character. He's punk. He's a member of a band. He's just very unique, especially for gay characters who are normally either like, oh, I'm masculine, so I'm different than the other gays, or like I am the stereotype. He kind of goes against the grain. He embodies some masculine traits and some feminine traits, and he does it in his own very punk way. Second, we have Zeke. Zeke embodies the nerd stereotype. He is shy, quiet, and as Charlie puts, kind of weak. And it's kind of interesting because all of these boys embody good and bad, and they take certain cultural cues about ideas of gender and masculinity and almost use them against each other, which I think is not actually uncommon in the closet. We are grappling with our sense of self, so weakness in others or perceived femininity, gayness, is threatening to some of us. Some of us deal with that just by kind of being like, I'm going to avoid it. And others may be a little bit more aggressive about it. That brings us to Hammer, who is a star athlete. And this is kind of a trope, which I talked about in my last video, but this idea of the gay jock who is violently homophobic, that's not really a unique character. But where Sheppard takes this kind of been there, done that type and makes it more interesting is he makes Hammer not the worst person in the world. He makes him just kind of ignorant. He makes him delusional in a way. So for some background, Hammer believes basically that all boys in puberty feel a certain way about other boys, but as long as you don't act on it, it's fine. And he gets this idea by this outdated health book that his parents gave him. I actually read similar ideas, I think, when I was reading, I don't know, books about puberty and things like that. There was this idea that, when you're young and hormonal, then, it's natural to kind of like other people of your same gender. And I want to be clear, it is natural. But the way that it's framed in the book that he read and the way that it was framed in stories that I've also heard is that it's natural and you'll outgrow it. And that's where I feel like maybe for some people that's true. It gives this sense of hope and this sense of you should outgrow it. And that's what Hammer embodies, this idea that you should outgrow your urges and you're going to outgrow your urges. And he clings on to this idea. So those are the 3 characters. Now let's talk about plot. Essentially, the plot starts with Charlie, and specifically how Charlie uses a location-based dating app to find a man who he thinks is divorced, but turns out not to be divorced. So he goes to this guy's house. He's disgusted by the environment. He's disgusted by the beer that he's offered. The guy's sweaty t-shirt and all these McDonald's wrappers all on the floor. And nevertheless, he's intrigued and still does what one does when they go over to a stranger's house. And the guy's wife comes back. And I thought this was super juicy and salacious. And especially for a young adult book, I feel like that was kind of, I don't know, risque. And from there, it gets bad. Charlie's life kind of unravels in a lot of ways because the people who he thought would be there for him really aren't there for him and turn on him. He becomes this sort of social pariah, this gay monster, and he's alone on his own island. While people's experiences in the closet and coming out vary, and some of us have genuinely great experiences, I think it is important to recognize that even when you have a good experience, most of us don't feel like we have a huge sense of connection with a lot of our peers because by nature of the fact that we are LGBT, we're a little bit off from the mainstream of our culture. And in a small town, rural, conservative environment that Charlie's in Western Australia, that being on an island or being alone becomes very lonely. It becomes socially ostracized. It becomes like he's invisible. Sometimes he's visible, but for all the wrong reasons. He's like that gross thing that you don't want to touch. And that's why the other boys, Zeke and Hammer, don't want to deal with it. They stay in the closet. So we get one character who's basically outed, and then we get two characters that stay in the closet by choice. Sheppard takes you on a ride with all these characters. It leaves you unsatisfied. And I don't mean that in a bad way. The characters don't get full resolution. They are teenagers after all. And I think what an authentic way to end a young adult book. Instead of tying it up with a pretty little bow, Sheppard leaves you feeling like there's more to the story. And there is more to the story. But we're not going to get to see it, at least with this book. But I don't think we need to. Because this book is not about the life after the closet that so much gay media focuses on. This is about the life inside the closet and very shortly after it, where we're dealing with all these emotions and so much of our inner world is unseen by the world around us. And we're scared and we're alone, and we don't even realize sometimes that the other people around us may be feeling the same way. This is a tremendous book. There are some shortcomings. Namely, it doesn't have a lot of diverse representation in terms of people of color. With that said, I think the book is still compelling. And the reason it's compelling is Sheppard has an authentic voice when he's writing. He creates characters that feel like real teenagers. And if you've read any young adult fiction, sometimes that's really rare. Sometimes you're reading and you're like, no one talks like that. Beyond that, Sheppard tackles topics in the genre that often aren't talked about. He talks about maybe the unseen, the somewhat seedier, and I don't mean that in a judgment-based way, but the parts that we don't want to have seen by the straight world. He talks about it. And I feel in doing that, he creates space for young readers to accept the fact that their lives may be a little different, but their lives are valid. And the problem isn't them. The problem is the world. The book ends with a really powerful line, and it will get you thinking. I won't spoil it, but I think it will ruffle some feathers, but in a good way. What more punk way to end a book than with something controversial? So, would I recommend the book? Yes, absolutely. We're giving this one a 4 out of 5 stars, guys, and I'm really excited to hear what you guys thought of the book, because for me, this is one of the best in the genre. All right, guys, that's all I have for today. I will be doing more queer book reviews in the future. I will be publishing every Friday, so if that interests you, please do subscribe or comment down below. If you are interested in me reviewing a specific book, please also comment down below because I would love to add some more to my reading list. I've read probably about 5 or 6 in the past month, so I'm always looking for more recommendations. Anyway, thanks so much. Bye.